Hi friends, today I'm going to be showing you how I put names on sports jerseys. So that was this week's project, and so come along and let's see how I did it. So we start out in Cricut Design Space, and I believe the dimensions are 3 1/4 by 18 1/4 was our sample, and that was perfect for the jersey. So I just kept copying and pasting it and putting the names on. And then we had to go ahead and shrink down those names so that they will fit within the jersey. And the players knew that their names will be smaller, the ones that they wanted longer names for. And then in this second part, I just kind of lay it out. I found that if I just go with what Cricut does, it's just a little too close together and hard to cut in between. So I usually just look at it and space it, and then I make sure that I mirror it. And hopefully that'll be obvious in a moment. And then placing this, I always try to be extra careful not to put extra dust and things. So I try not to have, fans blowing or anything that would do that while I'm working. And plug everything in. And I actually waited to get this Cricut that I can hook to my computer. So I waited several years for it, and I'm so glad I did. And now again, just set it up quickly, iron on, and make sure it's mirrored, and then put it in the machine. And I'll let it work its magic. And I was hoping when I was recording that it would be clear enough to see every little cut, but as I have looked back at the recording, I don't think that you can, but you know that it's being cut now and it's being cut well, so you'll see that in just a moment. And this is something that I felt like was magic when I first got the Cricut, just how well things cut. And sometimes I have had to trade out the blade, and that is totally fine. It's completely worth it to have a nice crisp cut. Now this part is the weeding. So you're going to very slowly work on this. And of course this is sped up 8 times as fast. But you'll notice I'll kind of go through slowly, pull, and I just pull ever so gently so that it's not going to tear. Because if it tears, then you have to start all over, which is kind of a pain. And several years ago, I was weeding over 100, maybe 150 little temples that went on these mirrors, and they were so cute. But I remember it just took forever, just all the little intricate pieces, and I had an awesome friend come and see what I was doing, and she offered to take like more than half of them, and it was such a blessing. So yay for good friends. Here, we're almost done weeding this out. And now you'll notice I'll look at it and I'll just try to go from left to right, right to left, just try to go one way, and so I make sure I'm not skipping, because I have skipped things in the past, which is no fun. Check, and then I'll pull it off. And originally I pulled off before I weeded, but I found it's much easier to have it stuck down on something when you're weeding, much faster. And then now, because I made that space earlier, I can cut easily between without being afraid I'm going to cut any letters off. So again, I just kind of take my time on that. And now the fun part. Woohoo! So now with the Cricut Press, we just go ahead, and you'll notice those are not my hands. Those are my hunky hubby's hands. He helps with so many projects. He was an auto mechanic for years, and just very particular and super. He has a great eye, so I had him help me because it kind of stresses me out to actually iron them on. So he helps me line everything up perfectly and get it done. And luckily he has never complained about my shenanigans, all these fun things that I like to work on. He seems to enjoy it too, and maybe it's just we like to spend time together, so that's fun too. And then you'll notice as this lifts off, you'll see that the letters are a lot darker, and that worried us at first. Because we're like, oh no, we're going to ruin the jersey, and the Cricut, but once it lifts off, you'll already notice that it's already getting lighter on the part that was done. So really, as it cools, it's been just completely fine, which is such a blessing. And we just looked up the Cricut settings, which I've pretty much always used. I think it's 315 degrees for 30 seconds. That's kind of the standard. And if you're doing something a little thicker, there might be a different temperature, and sometimes we'll do both sides depending on what we're working on. But for the jerseys, this temperature worked perfectly just with the 30 seconds. You can see that little perfection. And you'll see the little note, there's a little pink note in there that has that temperature on there. So every time I'm doing something, it automatically starts at that temperature, but once I look it up, if I need to change it, I will. The temperature or the time or whatever. And we actually recorded this upside down just because it worked better to have it have the space for the camera on one side and then do the ironing on the other. But then I flipped it around, so everything, it's not perfect, but one of these days, you know, we'll just continue learning how to record to make it easy for you to see and just kind of make it fun. Now is the part that always stresses me out a little too, is pulling off the plastic. You'll notice, well, it's sped up, of course, but we go very, very slowly and kind of hold down the letters to make sure that they stay. And I feel like I hold my breath when we do this part. But if for some reason it does pull up a letter, you just go back and iron it again and it seems to be fine. So there you have it. Ta-da! Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you learned something and saw maybe a little tip or something that helped you so that you can do this on your own. I've done other projects. This is my first time doing names on jerseys that I can remember, but I've done things like for girls camp, we've ironed on cute things for backpacks. If I get a minute to find those pictures, I'll link them up here, I'll show them. And I've also done a restaurant, like done logos for a restaurant, as well as like a family cruise. So if I can, I'll link them. Otherwise, some other video, some other time, I'll show you those. So I hope you have a wonderful day and can't wait to see you next week. Bye-bye.